Hi everyone, it's great to be here. My name's Enver Solomon and I'm the Chief Executive of the Refugee Council. A massive thanks to Vivienne and all the previous speakers. It's so good to be on a platform where you're surrounded by people that are speaking up on such important and vital issues, and to be with Vivienne, who's been such a stalwart campaigner for human rights around the world. At the Refugee Council, we work with people that come to the UK, they're seeking asylum and they've come here as refugees. And I want to take you to a place called Dover on the south coast, down in Kent. And I want you to think about what you've been seeing in the media about people coming across in boats across the channel in Dover. Last year, 27,000 people came across the busiest shipping lane in the world. I was down there back last summer, and I was sat down with two young men who'd come across the channel. They'd risked their lives. They'd made a journey overland all the way from Afghanistan in the back of a lorry, handing over their lives to people smugglers, and then coming across the channel in a dinghy where they could have capsized at any moment to get to safety in the UK. And I sat with them where we work supporting people when they arrive in Dover, and I looked at their faces and I saw absolute terror and horror and desperation. But I also saw incredible relief that they'd reached the UK and that they'd reached the UK with their lives intact. And I saw total anguish about the fact that they knew that they had left behind in Afghanistan their family, their mother, their father, their brother, their sisters, their aunt and uncles, people that they had grown up with, and they were terrified that they were going to be beaten alive by the Taliban. And then I sat there and I looked at them, and then I thought about what this government wants to do to people that make dangerous journeys that come to the UK. And you may not realise this, but just 2 weeks ago, this government passed a piece of legislation in Parliament called the Nationality and Borders Act. And what that act will do is that it will treat those two young people and any person that comes to the UK by themselves as an illegal person. It will criminalise them, and it could send them to prison for up to 4 years. We as a nation surely can do better than this. And let's remember, there have been generations of people. I stand here today as someone who is in this world as a consequence of my mother fleeing apartheid South Africa and having been granted political sanctuary in the UK. I wouldn't be here today if my mother hadn't been granted political sanctuary in the UK as a political refugee. There will be others of you that will know people. You may have friends, you may have family, you may have relatives that came here fleeing war and persecution across the globe, whether that was the Ugandan Asians fleeing terror in the 70s, whether it was those fleeing the dictatorial regime in Iran, whether it was going further back to family, friends or forefathers that fled the Nazis in Germany, or whether it was more recently, you might have friends who fled the atrocities in Yugoslavia. And then some of you may even be hosting Ukrainians who have come here fleeing war in Ukraine. This country has always sought to welcome those who have lost everything through no fault of their own. We are a nation of people, of refugees who have come across the globe. And today we must stand together with them and ensure that we continue to give them a fair hearing on UK soil, regardless of how they get here, because that draconian piece of legislation rather sinisterly calls people who have come here overland, having made dangerous journeys, as so-called Group 2 refugees. Can you imagine? We have a piece of legislation that is using the language with echoes of the horrendous regimes that have ruled, that have sought to treat people as second-class citizens, whether that was in apartheid South Africa or in Nazi Germany, as Group 2 category of individuals who are undeserving of protection in the UK simply because they've had to take a dangerous journey by themselves to get here. And I also say to you, we must remember that when people come, we must show them compassion and humanity. We work with asylum seekers that are living in very poor standard accommodation, in poor standard hotels across the country, who are waiting for months, years on end for their decision, who are terrified about being sent back to their home country, that they resort to self-harm and even in the worst cases, taking their own lives. And let's not forget that now we have a government that wants to transport people as though they're a human cargo thousands of miles away to the East African state of Rwanda. I'm sure you've read about it in the news, because this government deems those people as some kind of second-class group of human beings that don't deserve to be granted a fair hearing around being given refugee protection in the UK. I urge you, after today, to go back and to talk to people in your workplaces, in your neighbourhoods, in your communities, because most people don't know about this. They think that this government just wants to welcome Ukrainian refugees and wants to support them all. They don't realise that people that come across the channel face criminalisation, face imprisonment. I urge you to go out and to stand up for the rights of those people who across the globe have lost everything through no fault of their own. We need to fight for their rights. We need to inform our friends and our communities and our neighbours and our colleagues in the workplaces about how this government wants to treat refugees, because this government believes it has the public on its side. It's only if we challenge that narrative that people will realise that this government is adopting such a harsh and cruel and heartless approach to humans who have lost everything. So that is my ask of you today, to stand up for the rights of people who are seeking asylum, who are coming here as refugees, as well as fighting against the arms trade, as well as fighting for those who are trying to address the climate emergency and the climate crisis. Because that climate crisis will result in more people losing everything. It will result in more people being forced to flee as refugees. And we have a duty as a nation to stand up and do our part and to welcome those who have lost everything. Thank you very much, and thanks again to Vivienne.